Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. I'm so excited to see your talk today.
Thank you very much. So I know that I believe that everyone have heard us some of this at some point about uh, folks from business saying that I want to automate everything. We need to start automating everything, and mostly we need to start automating end-to-end testing. And this is something that I want to talk a little bit about, not only to tell why this is not feasible, but give some talk points why this is not feasible, because we are all been there at some point and we need to start telling them that no, we cannot do this. So first of all, I want to introduce myself. So I have been working for with testing. I used to joke that testing it was my first son. So I have been working with testing quality since 2004, so before I have my two kids. So I have over 20 years of experience in IT and quality. Quality is my big son and my passion, and what I have found to be the biggest passion in my life. So I used to be the head of testing in Brazil at IBM, and I love automation. I used to work with RPA and cognitive at Avanade, and I have my bundle of joys, my two kids. It's two teenage, but it's still a bundle of joy. So Isadora and Arthur. And also I have two 12 dogs, 11 chihuahuas, my adorable chihuahuas. I'm sorry. Yes. My 11 chihuahuas, and my husband, he loves QA as well. Actually, he's going to talk right after me, so you're going to listen him talking about QA as well. And I used to be so I nowadays I'm a senior manager at CINT. I work delivering value to the customer with value and lean digital transformation. So I used to work a lot with quality into waterfall. So always focusing with quality and waterfall when doing testing and creating test cases and focus on that. And to be quite frankly, I didn't believe a lot into agile and how this could be worthwhile. And once I really discovered that, I changed completely my view and my life about that. And now a completely changed person, and I defend a lot the test pyramid and the sense that the QA is much more of a mindset than than a role. So I think that the QA role evolve a lot, and this is something that I say a lot to all the QAs that I meet everywhere, including CINT. And also I work a lot with agile engineering, and I love to share knowledge into conferences and speaking, and this is something that I really love. And also to travel, so I went to India and to US and to Uzbekistan. It was one of the most enjoyable trip I did in my life, and I'm from Brazil. So this is a little bit about myself. And if you want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn. My name is a little bit easy to find. There are not a lot of Rozochanskys around, so you can find me everywhere. So first of all, I think we need to really define what is automation. So automation is the technology that a process or procedure is performed with minimal human assistance. And this, I mean, anything can be automated. And I mean anything, since an escalator, anything can be automated. So when we talk about automation, can be anything. We can talk about automation in the sense of data automation, in the sense of unit test automation, in the sense of regression automation, end-to-end automation, in the sense of anything can be automated. So when someone talk to us and say we need to automate everything, this is so humongous that we just need to say no. We cannot define everything can be automated. So what is the test automation fallacy? The on and this is something that I am pretty sure everyone has heard about this before. So the only way we can guarantee no defects are found, and we have a lot about no, never, always, etc. No defects are found is by testing everything. We need to run all the tests every time. We need to automate everything. For every bug found, I need to create a new test. We need more tests, more. We need always more. So many times what we have faced, what we have encountered is business always coming to us saying that we need to have a greater test suite, we need to create more tests, we need to increase our test automation suite, we need for every bug more automation and more automation. What is the test automation reality? The only way we can guarantee less defects, there is no way you can guarantee no defects, is by testing the right things. We need to run unit integration and component tests every commit. We need to automate what matters. For every bug found, I need unit test. We need less end-to-end testing. We need less complexity. We the more less complexity I have, the more quality I have. Exploratory tests always will be manual. Many times I have been asked, the tester role will be finished. Or eventually the QA role will be replaced by something else, by a robot, by something. And I say no, because mostly because of two things. Number one, the QA mindset needs to be there, and the this inquisitive mind, this exploratory mind. And number two, the exploratory tests always will be manual. We always will be needing the human factor to do the exploratory testing. This is a key position. This is really, really important. So what I'm saying here is this, and I'm going back to our last talking, that we need to do the test pyramid. We need to ensure we have all my unit testing automated correctly. And we need to run this automation. Yes, this I need to have my complete automation, and I need to run every time. And yes, my unit tests need to be automated completely. And I need, as a QA, I need to work along with developer team by coaching them, by teaching them, and even working with them to ensure that unit tests are automated and are okay. Integration and components tests need to be automated as well. And I mean about this as well as contract testing. I need to ensure and services testing, API testing needs to be automated as well. So those are mandatory to be automated. And this, yes, I need to automate those, but I don't need to automate it every little test scenario end to end. And this is what we need to go back to the business and say, what I need to automate it is my unit testing. What I need to automate is my integration and component testing. But the end-to-end testing that I need to have automated are the critical scenarios, the less scenarios, but the critical ones, the ones that are going to be regression, because every little part will be tested before. And I'm going to show you afterwards the feedback cycle, and I'm going to go back to the old story about the earlier I find my bug, the cheaper it gets. So it's really easy for us to get business and say, this is what I need to automate. You are right, we need to automate, but I can't start automating my end to end. I need to start automating my unit testing. And now we get to automation cost. And this is a very good point to get to business as well. Do you know that to create an end-to-end automation test script, it costs 4 times more than creating it manually? And then it can say to you, okay, but if I use an automation tool that can create with a low code tool, it can create really easily a script, okay, but if even if I have and I have new tools that can create a low code tools that can create a script that is resilient, that can have 5 parameters as a position parameter, X path, a Y path, position, ID parameter, etc. Even if I have one of those, that if a XPath parameter fails, it can get an ID parameter, it can get another parameter, etc. The tool itself, it costs a lot of money. So this end-to-end automation test scripts, it will be really costly, more than creating it manually. And other than that, the test scripts need to have test data available or handled in an environment to run them. So, for example, if you are testing a bank application and you have data that is burned, and you can have and you are going to use it only once because it's going to burn this data, you need to have a lot of data in order to do these tests. So, for example, I used to have a customer that have these scripts automated, but it would take 1 week to be able to have the data available to have it tested. So what is the point? He couldn't run the scripts, or he could have the automation scripts, but maintained it wasn't maintained well, so he would lost these scripts. If you have a lot of scripts, what is the maintenance? It is well maintained. For every change you do in application, you need to consider the cost and the time to maintain the automation scripts as well. So the larger your automation suite, the larger the cost to maintain it as well. So you need to consider all of this into the automation cost. The cost to create your automation test script, the cost to have all the automation tests data available, the environment to run it, the tool if you're going to have a low code for this. So it's a lot of variables to have. So this is a talk point for you to go back to the business. And what to automate? So this is really important. We start with less dependent tests, such as unit tests, as I told you before. So when we are going back to business and you say we cannot start with end-to-end tests because they are really costly, and we need to have all the test data, and we need to have the environment, and we need to have all the integrations together, and we need to have everything, etc., etc. So they can ask, okay, so what do I need to automate it? We need to start with the less dependent tests. What are those? We need to start with unit tests. We need to start with the component tests, and then we automated those as much as possible. When we talk about unit tests, we don't need test data. We use mock data if such. We don't need environment. If we need any, we don't need any integration. They are really, really less dependent. They are self-contained. So that is why we can create as much as possible, create at will, and they are really cheap to create. And also, automate the tasks that will run several and several times, such as regression suites, the main functions, main flow. What am I saying with this? So when we go upper into the test pyramid, and we go to say, okay, so let's automate one flow for the end to end. We go and we go to automate that test that we need to run several and several times. So for example, if I'm testing um, Amazon, I'm going to test the complete flow for my procurement, my buying flow. So since the looking for an item, adding this item to the cart, and then going to the payment, and then going to put in the address. So the flow, the main functions, the main flow. I'm not going to go, oh, I'm going to put an invalid zip code. I'm going to put, I don't need to test all of this. I test the invalid flow into the, I test the invalid flow into the unit and component test. I'm going to put only the main flow, the main function to test the end to end. And this, I automate this main flow. And for these tests to paint themselves, they need to run several and several and several times. More times you run this test, more you gain. So if you want to do the break even to see if it's worthwhile to automate this, what you do, you get the time you're going to spend with with create this test case, this automation, the cost you're going to do, it can be the hour of the person that is going to do, plus the cost of the tool if it's not an open source tool, and then you put this cost, and then if you have any maintenance costs and such, and then you add those, and then you say how many times you're going to run this, and then and how long it would take for you to run this manually. So for example, I would take manually 2 hours to run it, and now that is automated, I'm going to take 10 minutes. Then you say you're going to save it then 10 minutes instead of 120 minutes. So you're going to save 110 minutes. So every time you're going to run it, you're going to save 110 minutes. How much it costs your hour. And then you're going to add up, and then you're going to find your break even. So in 2 weeks, you paid off your time, the cost. So you have the break even. And then afterwards, you're only going to save the money afterwards. So one thing that is really interesting, I don't know if you have read. If you don't, please go and read it. This is the Bible and the life for anyone that knows about agile testing. Is the Agile Testing Condensed by Lisa Crispin and Janet Gregory. So use the test in Agile Quadrants, okay? And using the test in Agile Quadrants, you can see a lot what automate first. Always automate unit tests and component testing. Automate and use some automate and manual for functional tests, example, story tests, prototypes, and simulations. So you focus on prototypes and some functional tests, main flow on Q3 here for exploratory testing, scenarios, usability testing, UAT, and A/B testing. And for Q4, that is the specialty tests, and those you use those specialty tools. So performance load testing, security testing, and any those specialty testing, you use these specialty tools for those kind of tools. So performance testing, you need to create the special script for those. So you need to have this script. It will be uh, automated test, but with the special tool. And then you're going to work with those and work with those. This is really important, but always consider those, always focus on unit tests, component tests to start your automation and show this to the business. So when they say to you and say, I want to automate everything, say, guy, come on, let's start with this. We need to automate all unit testing and component testing and show them what is the value for those. So say, if we start automating this, what is the value we're going to get, and then start to show and start to get some values from this. So say, okay, so before I apply the test pyramid, what I have before, what I get this. So I have said a lot of the testing pyramid. So the test pyramid is a metaphor that groups the tasks in buckets of different granularity. A lot of persons heard about the testing pyramid that work it with agile testing. Some people that not work it are not very familiar with the test pyramid, that are more familiar with waterfall. The testing pyramid is really, really, really important. So what it says is that we need to have a lot of unit testing, and what we create, what we test on the lower parts of the testing pyramid, we don't repeat on the upper parts of the testing pyramid. This is really, really important. So what I'm saying here is that, for example, in application, I can have 100 units testing, then I'll have 80 integration tests, 60 components, and maybe 40, 30 end-to-end testing, and 4 exploratory testing. And then if I have a healthy test pyramid, I can have a really good way to ensure I have a continuous testing, a continuous deployment, and then I can effectively deploy a good DevOps strategy. And this is really important. This is why we are going to go with the test pyramid. It's not only because doing the test pyramid, we can ensure we are going to do the testing during the sprint. So this is something that I have heard a lot. I'm not able to do my automation in during my sprint. How are you able to create your automation scripts during the sprint? And this is something. So when we have during the sprint the QA along with the squad all together, they create the test strategy and we define all together as the whole team approach, the whole team based approach. We define which tests go into each layer based on the story. So this test case it goes into units layer, this task goes into integration, and we go and define each one. And during the time we are defining the story, refining the story, we go together already defining the my test case, it's not my tests, and my acceptance criteria, and now we go along doing this and be able to, after I develop, I have all my test cases and my automation together because I built my code along with my automation. And automation, I'm saying about my unit, my integration, and my component tests as well. So I built my automation along with my code. I ensure everything is built together. And then I deliver my automation with my code as well. So this is why it's so important I have my test pyramid. And let us avoid the the cone pyramids where I have my unit, it's really small, and I have my integration a little bit bigger, and my end-to-end really, really big, and I have humongous end-to-end testing. Let us avoid this. If we see this end pattern, let us work a little bit with the customer to start reverse this. A little by little, we talk with development and we start to go and create unit by unit testing until we start to reverse this as well. And remember, I told you about the cost versus feedback cycle. So, this is something that is really important. The bug that we find on the early in the cycle, and I say the development bug I find by pair programming is it can be 140 times cheaper than the bug I find in the production. And this I'm not even mentioning the morale of the company. So this is why it's so important for us to focus on the shift left, to focus on unit testing, to focus on all of those preventive strategies that we have, so we can have really these bugs find earlier in the cycle and not wait until the end to end. So if we find something before development bug find by pair programming or continuous integration or TDD or parallel testing, this is really cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. By later and later and later, I find my bug, I find my defect, the costlier it is to fix it. So this is why it's really, really, really important for us to fix it as later as sooner as we find it. Okay. And this is the last thing I have to show for you, and is really, really, really important. So why is so important? So this is not me talking, okay? So I know, I believe that all of you have heard about the state of DevOps. The state of DevOps is a study that has been around for many, many years. So according to State of DevOps 2019, it groups all of the respondents into several groups. So we have the low, medium, and high and elite players into DevOps adoption. And what it says that the higher the adoption for unit tests, the higher the adoption for DevOps. So if you go and see here, we have, if you are a low adoption for DevOps, you do a median of 57% for unit tests. If you are an elite DevOps adoption, you can go up to 87% of DevOps adoption. And if you go to see automated acceptance tests, do you remember that I told you that this is something that you must do really, not very much. And you have here the elite is 58%. And so this is something that we really need to show to our business. And you can go and see the state of DevOps 2019, and you have 2020 that talks about platforms. You have 2021 as well, the Dora reports. So this is really, really important that elite performers adopt up to 50% more automation than low performers. And this is focused on automated builds, automated unit tests, and is less on acceptance tests. So show this to them, that the important thing is to start with unit tests, and we need to focus on this. Let's always start with unit tests, and of course automated build if you want to go to DevOps. But if we're talking about quality, about QA, that is our land. Let us start with unit tests. This is where we need to start our journey to automation, and not with end to end, never end to end automation, always with unit tests. So this is mostly what I have to talk to you about, the test automation fallacy. And I hope you have enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And please, if you have anything else to talk about, if you have any questions, please let me know.
Right. So that was fantastic. Thank you so much. We do have time for just a couple of questions. I see a few in the chat. Somebody said they're just on the beginning of their journey. Where would you suggest they start?
The journey to automation, the journey of quality, where would be the journey? So,
You know, they didn't say, so let's say journey of automation.
okay, so the journey to automation, I would say to start into unit testing, yes. So let's start with unit testing, component testing, focus on the test pyramid. Focus on its test strategy and use the test pyramid and start with unit testing. Focus on coaching your development team. Focus on coaching them, teaching them on how to do the unit testing and how to do the component testing.
When you say how to do it, would you recommend talking about things like the really good test design techniques? Um, Things like, boundary value analysis and partitioning and all of those like fundamental testing techniques?
Yes, when I say actually, I think that first of all, one thing that we have noticed is that developers, they don't like to do unit testing. They don't like to think about it. They don't like to consider this is important. So first of all, they need to see the importance of those. They need to understand that quality. is not something that is only pertaining to the QA. Quality is a vision for the whole team.
Mhm.
And then we go into the technical thing, and then we go to the partitioning, and then we go, but first of all, they need to understand that when you talk about quality, we're talking about, this is something that everyone needs to be aware.
I agree. Quality is the team's job. Nobody, the team owns it, not the testers. So,
Exactly.
would you want to share any final thoughts, and then we're going to go ahead and take a quick break?
No, actually, thank you very much. It was a really pleasure to be here, and I know we will have a very enjoyable day the rest of the day. So enjoy. Uh, Very much knowledge ahead. Oh, we have another question here.
We've got a few minutes. Looks like it just came in. Um, how do you know you're spending more time than needed on end-to-end tests? What main triggers from the real experience do I need to change strategy?
So actually, I would say that if you are spending what how do you know that you're spending more than needed on end to end? If you are spending more time maintaining your end to end than developing your end to end, you are definitely need to rethink this. What I'm saying is that you need to be able to the end-to-end testing is only for the main flows. You cannot be creating end-to-end every time for every little new thing you create. So, for example, you are going to add a button, a little button on the end for this sprint. Oh, I'm going to create a new end-to-end. You have something really wrong going on, because end to end is the main flow only. So if you are going to create a new end to end test for every new sprint, something is wrong. This is the
Mm.
first red alert.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us.